Hello, I am Shreya Khurana and I am here to present my research on investigating urban livelihood in fishing villages of India through the example of Versova Koliwada in Mumbai. First of all, I would like to extend my gratitude towards Faculty of Architecture and Acoustics to give me this opportunity to present my research at this platform. Fishing in India is one of the most important occupations when considered both economically and culturally. The research here intends to investigate this importance by looking deeper into livelihood of fishing communities in Maharashtra. Fishing is important for sure, but why? Because of the money? Yes, but also because of the history that it represents. Historical communities like Kolis from Koliwada are an example and are known for their vibrancy, their culture, the years of tradition that they bring to the table, and their hospitality. But are these indigenous communities culturally and financially secured? Let's look at the example of Versova Koliwada in Mumbai, which is one of the largest and the oldest self sustaining fishing villages in Mumbai. Going down the history timeline, the village, just like any other urban village in India, grew from an open land with farming plots and community wells, saw its days of development, and is now a dense settlement, creating a critical example of urbanization today. Amidst these tall buildings, certain pockets can be identified around 6 to 8 in number that still exhibit the traditional built and heritage presented by these communities. These are made up of your standard traditional materials, stones and bricks, and have wooden flooring, present wooden craft, high plinth, and Mangalore tiles with pitched roof. Here is an example of one of these clusters which shows a mix of these traditional dwellings and newly constructed buildings. Each of this cluster, each of these clusters has a community well and a shrine, either at the entrance of the cluster or placed at the center, with the presence of Tulsi at the center, surrounded by all the houses around it. Now, these community wells where once fish could be found, these are now a major part of the lives of Koli women, both in terms of leisure and domestic purposes. Moreover, Kolis are known for their beliefs, which is evident by the presence of such shrines along the streets and within the clusters, and the presence of Tulsi, extravagantly beautiful Tulsi, in these houses. The wealthier the Koli house, the beautiful is the Tulsi. Facade features like these represent their love for fishing not just as an occupation but also the way of living. Moreover, traditional craft these coolies are known for their craftsmanship, which is evident by these pictures of traditional wooden carving on the doors and columns of the traditional houses and basket weaving. But why Warsaw Kolivara? The village here is 48 acres of land and has mangroves towards its north and a creek towards its west, formed by the Oshivara River and the Arabian Sea, and also Mud Island across the creek. Now, the importance of the creek and the mangroves is that they create a habitable environment for the fish species to breed naturally, thus adding to the advantage of the fishermen, and therefore some of the unique fish species in Mumbai can be found here in Versova. Economical significance. First of all, obviously, fishing is one of these. Uh, and also fish-allied activities like boat mending and construction, and net weaving and basket weaving. But apart from fishing, the villagers are also involved in ferry service that runs between the Versova village and the Mud Island, thus adding to the annual revenue generated by the villagers. With fishing industry still being a primary occupation, creating around 400 crores as per the 2018 statistics. Thus, Our village over here is an overlap of economical and uh, ecological aspect with tourism and cultural aspect. Now, what makes these indigenous communities vulnerable? Let's look at some of the concerns that are creating a shift in these villages. Beginning with the ecological and economic concerns, firstly, the mangroves that are present in the north are presently being exploited for purposes like fish drying yards, temporary shelters for construction workers, and waste disposal that is actually killing the natural breeding sites of fish, thus affecting the fishing industry. Moreover, oil from the nearby plants and the ferry service tends to deposit in along the shores and in the water, thus resulting into an inferior fish catch. Also, improper waste management of the village and the waste brought in by the sea waves affects the environment and the business. Presence of inadequate infrastructure, for example, board docking that is evident from this picture, board docking along the coast and not a proper board docking area, or not properly defined fish markets with the fisherwomen selling the fish on the streets. Moreover, mostly these fishermen also struggle because of lack of proper electricity provision by the government, thus affecting their cold storage facilities throughout the year. This graph here shows how all of these issues affect the fish production in a village like Versova, Koliwada, which is evident uh, through the difference between the 2009 and 2018 produce. All of these concerns add up to the disinterest among the fishermen towards their traditional occupation and thus create a shift in occupation which is evident from this graph where fishermen, the active fishermen can only be said are around 13% of the entire population of 23,000 people, while 68% of people have already drifted away from the fishing occupation and have involved themselves in activities like uh, employment within the village or outside the village. Some of the cultural concerns that exist in this village are: this is the figure ground map, which shows that around 70% of the Versova Koliwada is built, leaving 30% unbuilt or less than 30%. This is mainly because Versova Koliwada, lying at the coastal regulation zone, has to follow certain norms, which says that the built area can be of a particular within the particular plot boundary can have a setback of about 5 feet from all the sides, but because of family expansion, this overlimits the boundaries, and the houses currently have just 1 feet from the building boundary, leaving very small gaps between the buildings, forming narrow alleys and streets where domestic waste and construction waste gets collected. This also results into inadequate open areas for cultural or recreational purposes, thus implying that the children have to play either at the beach or on the streets, and the same is for the leisure activity or the festivities by the Koli women. Secondly, the CRZ norms also state that the area, the high tension zone that is represented in this map through the area between the blue and the red line, there cannot be any type of construction in this particular area. Still, there is encroachment that can be seen of these norms, and temporary shelters are already have already been constructed or are placed in this area, making these communities vulnerable. Moreover, the Versova Machimar Cooperative Society in the village tends to retrofit the primary street, only the primary street, after every few years, adding layers and layers of asphalt over this particular street, and not the secondary street, thus creating a level difference between the two. As we all know, Mumbai uh, tends to get heavy rainfall, and whenever this happens, all of the water falls directly into the secondary streets and moves into the houses, causing water ingression in cases of heavy rainfall. Moreover, the inability of the villagers to maintain their old structures and continue their old traditional practices leads to new construction practices, taller buildings, and shadowing of streets. All of these factors make the communities vulnerable, and there is a shift in the construction practices that can be seen. Now, similar villages are there in India, similar fishing villages that suffer from the aftermath of urbanization. These can be because of lack of proper policies or implementation of these policies or simply urban neglect. But not only do the communities suffer, it is also the ecology, the environment that is suffering from all of these issues. Thank you.